What is up, Ravens flock? You already know what time it is. It is time for your Vault Ravens lunch hour live stream. I am Sarah Ellison, and as many of you have already noted in the comment section, it is Sarah Solo Day. And that is because my co-host and partner, Bobby Trossett, he is enjoying a nice weekend off for a family wedding. So we hope he's having an absolute blast and enjoying the joy and happiness that comes with a new wedding, a new union there. So I get the privilege of talking to y'all about yesterday's joint Ravens-Packers joint practice. And I think that I want to spend some time on it quite a bit and analyze it because it was the only time all training camp, all preseason, that the Ravens starters have gone up against another team's starters. Because as we know, John Harbaugh, ever since that J.K. Dobbins injury, has not played. I'll say his top line starters, right? Some of the offensive line and guys like that will get those that will be starters have gotten some play. So we're going to dive deep into that. We're going to dive deep into the offensive line and reports that were coming out of Green Bay that, they didn't look, what's the word? They didn't make you feel super comfortable at this point in time. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at some of the defensive plays and how Lamar Jackson looked. But before I get to all that, what I really want to get to first off the top of the show is a day or two ago, Lamar Jackson was a guest on Adam Shine's Mad Dog Sports Radio program. And I don't think a lot of people have heard about it because it's on SiriusXM, which you need a subscription. I don't have a subscription, but for you lovely people, because I love you, because there's so much love here between us, I went and I got a 1-month subscription. I took the 1 month, I took the bullet, spent a whole $10, canceled it right away. I'll have it for, the $10 for the month. But I went and I listened to the whole interview with Lamar, and there was lots of good stuff in there, including his reaction to Julian Edelman. Remember a couple days ago, we covered how Edelman said that Lamar should be on a milk carton during the postseason, kind of get his reaction there. But he also talked about how he's feeling since his weight loss and why he put it on in the first place, all that weight, which in the past, he's never really given us a clear answer. He just said he wanted to see how he felt, but he actually got a little bit deeper into why he put all the weight on in the first place and how it's making him feel. He's talking about the offense and how it's coming along. So a lot from Lamar there. Lots to get to. I got a ton of quick hits, got a lot of news around the league. So let's jump in. As a reminder as to what happened, you guys may recall that Julian Edelman was on a preseason Fox show before a game and was asked, hey, who do you think is going to be the biggest threat to the Chiefs? And he goes and says something like this.
Chiefs. We all know what the Chiefs are. They got Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, and everyone. It's up to everyone else. We need to see a Joe Burrow come out and do something, stay healthy, start fast. You need to see Lamar Jackson, who's been on a milk carton in the playoffs, so he's missing. And then, you got to see the other guys. There's going to be a dark horseman. But
right now, your money is on the Chiefs.
I'm going with the Chiefs.
All right, he's going with the Chiefs. Not a crazy take, right? Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls, but the way he just kind of came at Lamar, okay, there's no secret that, the biggest criticism on Lamar now, which has changed drastically from the goalposts have moved drastically since he was a rookie in 2018, but the current biggest and fair comment is that the Ravens, including Lamar, don't play up to their standard during the playoffs, at least the whole way through. I think Houston, I thought that game was really good for Lamar. So here comes Lamar on Adam Shine's show at Mad Dog Sports Radio. And Adam asked Lamar how he responds to critics like Julian Edelman. And here's his reply.
would you say to someone like Julian Edelman or some critics who have said, oh, Lamar, the playoffs, I'm still waiting for that big game in a big spot. Maybe he missed the Houston game or other people missed the Houston game. Is that something that you're trying to get over the hump? You understand that?
First of all, can we just talk about real quick? Do you hear Lamar's laugh, his patented chuckle? So as he's bringing up Julian Edelman and the criticism of the playoffs, it's just the patented Lamar laugh. He could be at the bottom of a pile in game day and he's laughing. He could be riding a bike and up at Green Bay and he's laughing. And then he's hearing his critics and it's the classic Lamar chuckle. So I just had to pause it there. Let's keep going.
Conversation and criticism. What would your reaction to something? Does that motivate you? What would your reaction be?
I mean, I'm motivated myself because I know what I want to do at the end of the day. Those guys had their time. I really don't care what the criticism is, what the critics say, because at the end of the day, I just came off a season-ending injury the year before, and we made it all the way to the LC in a new system, So it's nothing to be down in myself, my teammates, or anything like that, because we made it far and further than the years we've been. We haven't been to the LC in a long time, so we started off, we're getting closer, I'll say that. We just got to keep going, and, God's will, we'll be there, because that's our goal. We criticize ourselves more than anyone else, so what people say on the outside, that's just their takes, and they can believe in what they want to believe, but we know what we want, we know what we're striving for, so that's all I can say about it, Mr. Adam.
Mr. Adam. I love that. Lamar always giving respect to reporters and everybody else he comes across. But so there are two things that I love about this answer. And then one that, if we're going to pick it apart, well, not my favorite, but love it. First of all, he's trying to tell people, and I 1000% believe him when he says this, I really don't care. And he shouldn't. Because when you're Lamar Jackson and you've been asked since high school to change positions and you've been told that you can't play a quarterback position in the NFL the way he does, and he's proved them wrong time and time again, then why would he listen to these naysayers? Why should he? Why doesn't he just laugh him off like he just did? Why wouldn't he? Of course he should. I really don't care. Now, have you guys ever talked to a friend or you've listened to somebody in a press conference, it could be a professional athlete, and you go and talk to them and they say, oh, yeah, I don't really care what they have to say, but it's not believable? You ever had a friend like that? And you're like, no, you care. You care. You're trying to hide it, but you care. Okay, that is not Lamar Jackson. That is not Lamar Jackson. If there's anybody that I believe literally who he doesn't even need to block out the noise. There's some people that have to actively block it out. Remember we had some sound bites from Rashad Bateman a while ago when he re-signed he got a contract extension. And he talks about how he's learning from Lamar on how to not pay attention to all the noise. And Lamar, it just seems to come effortlessly because I feel like he's been doing it for probably at least half his life. So when Lamar says, I really don't care what the criticism is, he doesn't. That's why he's in the position he's in, because if he had listened to the critics in the past, he wouldn't be a two-time MVP. He might be a running back or a wide receiver or whatever everybody else wanted him to do. He stuck to his guns. He really doesn't care. Then later in that soundbite, he says, we're getting closer. I'll just say that. We just got to keep going and God's will be there. Now, Lamar wears his faith on his sleeve. If there's anybody he's going to listen to, it's trying to follow the will of God, right? So he's like, if it's his will, we're going to be there. We just got to keep going. And that's all you can do. You have to stay the course, continue to get better, and just get better 1% at a time, and never lose faith in yourself. Never lose faith in your teammates. People will be out here, well, the criticism is fair. The criticism is fair. Sure, it's fair. Sure, it is. But what does that mean inside the mind of an athlete? Who cares that it's fair? What are you going to lay down? Oh, yeah, you're right. I can never win the playoffs. Who cares that up till now it's been fair? In his mind, he can't worry about that. In the Ravens' minds, they can't worry about that. They have to continue forward in faith like they're going to change it. Like it's going to be changed. Okay? In between there, if I'm being a little bit picky, he mentioned, let me see what the quote is. He mentioned, he's like, at the end of the day, I just came off a season-ending injury the year before, and we made it all the way to the AFC Championship game in a new system. All of that is facts. And I think that somebody like a fan or somebody in the media, myself or anybody else in the media, I think these are really good points to point out. Like, look at how far the Ravens went to the AFC Championship game with Lamar coming off an injury and a brand new system, and they made it all the way there the first year in the system. But from an athlete's point of view, I hope that doesn't have, and I don't think that Lamar is like this, but you can become content, right? You can be a little bit content. Like, look how good it was. For sure, that's amazing. But I just don't want to like any contentment to creep in. Like, let's keep this. Let's keep this moving. Let's sit in this like dissatisfaction. You don't have to be angry. This dissatisfaction, and let it eat at you and motivate you. So, but at the same time, I'm not too worried because, again, Lamar has defied the odds in what everybody's saying, and he's a 2-time MVP, and he's a game away from the Super Bowl, and he keeps getting better, and so he's got to do it his way. That's his way. My way would be a little bit different, but I'm not Lamar Jackson, and thank goodness for that, because he's a million times more talented than I am on the football field. So yes, Lamar doesn't care. Keep going, and you will get there. Now, there were other parts of this interview that I thought was really good, and I wanted to share it with you because I'm sure most people don't have the subscription. Lamar was asked about losing his weight, which I'll get to in a second, and how that will make him harder to defend because he's faster and can, juke and jive like the 2019 Lamar that he was. And he had this to say about like, well, I don't know that all the attention's going to be on me.
Not back to pass. You know how to go through the progressions. If something breaks down, you take off, you run. Could we be looking at new wrinkles, designed runs? How could that make the Ravens offense and your ability to take off even more scary on game day?
I mean, because not just me running the ball, but the guys who I have on the offensive side of the ball. I got Isaiah Likely. I got Zay Flowers. I got Rashard Bateman. I got Mark Andrews. I got these guys who the defense have to watch as well. And I got Derrick Henry in the backfield, not Justice Hill. So the defense got to pay attention to those guys. So when they got their eyes on those guys, I just do my thing, And when they focus on me, I just let those guys eat, So that it's gonna be a pick your poison offense, I believe.
Love that. That is exactly how it needs to be. Remember yesterday we were talking about speak, and Acho was saying that, under Greg Roman, you guys are like, we need to throw more, you run too much. And then the AFC Championship game, they like lost their identity, their running identity completely, and then threw too much. And then Acho was like, well, you guys need to pick one. Which one do you want? And I'm like, with all due respect, Acho, no, we do not pick one, because this is a dual threat quarterback, and that's what you guys aren't getting yet. He is a dual threat quarterback. He's at his best when he does both. So the way he just described it is the exact correct strategy. He's saying, hey, if they're going to focus on me, fine. I'm just going to let my guys eat. And then if they get tired of letting my guys eat, then I'll take off. Then I'll do my thing. That's exactly the way it needs to be. It needs to be what he just said, a pick your poison offense. I like to hear that he has that confidence, and he's always been that way with his teammates. But what I like with his surrounding cast this year, last year, the Ravens put a lot of resources into the wide receiver core, and we didn't know it was going to pan out. But we liked how many resources they put in there. What did pan out big time was Zay Flowers. What did not pan out as much was OBJ. He dealt with injuries, and he really just didn't come on the way I personally had hoped in December and January. So they added these resources, but we didn't know it was going to happen. And then they lost Mark Andrews. We had a feeling that Isaiah Likely could do stuff, but we didn't know. Then running backs coming off of injuries, didn't feel like, you had Gus Edwards, he played well. But to me, King Henry is an upgrade. Okay. He's an upgrade. And I think that's putting it mildly. So now you got something like King Henry, who has always been the focal point. And now we already know what a healthy Mark Andrews can do with Lamar. And now we know what Isaiah Likely can do. We had a hope, we had a hint, but now we know because he took over when Mark went down. And now we know what we have in Zay. So the only place you're really kind of hoping is Bateman going to become the first round draft pick that we hope he is? So I like the surrounding cast. But if Bateman gets there, then I'm going to love the surrounding cast. I will love it if Bateman takes that step. Still have my concerns about it, but we'll see. Love that Lamar loves his guys. Now, next question was about the weight. And I wasn't going to pull this clip because I was like, oh, here we go. Every time Lamar gets, in front of the media, one of the first questions, especially national people who haven't talked to him, it's like, oh, the weight. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to need this answer. But then he gave new information on this of why he put the weight on in the first place and how he's been feeling so far with it.
Man, I put on the weight a couple years back, just because, guys went down our offensive line. We had a banged up line one season. It was probably, I want to say it was 2021, if I'm not mistaken, when we had the hurt team, defense and offense. And I just wanted to absorb more hits. But, as, the years went on, we got stronger with the offensive line and stuff like that. I don't really need all the weight on me, all the extra weight on me. So now I want to be able to be moving, when I have to move fluently, when I have to and stuff like that. And I believe it's helping out, because, Coach is talking about it. Coach T and stuff telling me like, yeah, you look a little smoother right now. Like, you looking fast. I'm like, yeah, I just got a little weight off me. So, so yeah.
So first of all, he said that he put on the weight because the offensive line had been banged up and he wanted to be able to absorb more hits. So he right there had it directly correlated to the offensive line, which is interesting when we get to more chat later today about the joint practices, especially about the offensive line. And for now, seems a little bit leaky, the offensive line, and yet he's taken off all this weight. So, but he took it off, or he put it on because he wanted to absorb more hits when the offensive line had sustained a ton of injuries, including Ronnie Stanley. So on and so forth. So I hadn't heard that before. What I also like to hear, do you guys remember there was one game, it wasn't in the AFC Championship game. There was a game kind of early-ish in the season, maybe the first quarter, and he got caught from behind. And I remember the team's Wired show had caught like players and John Harbaugh being like, or maybe he didn't get caught, but he almost got caught and he looked exhausted, and Lamar almost never got caught up to that point. It was like it wasn't even close. Like once he was in the open field, like there wasn't a chance. And like his teammates and John Harbaugh were like, whoa, were you going to get caught there? Were you slowing down? They were like, were you trying to run at full speed? And he's just trying to laugh it off. So there was that kind of like scene is kind of etched in my mind. And now you juxtapose it to what he just said there, which is that coach is coming up to him and saying, yeah, you look different. And by the way, I've got some comments from media who were in attendance during that joint practice, and I think you might like what they had to say about his speed, but because it goes right along with everything he's saying there. So I felt like those were like kind of the main points coming out of that interview with Adam Shine. He talked about Derrick Henry and how he's smash mouth football. He talked about how he thinks Derrick Henry is going to be like Jamal Lewis back in the day and just kind of bring that presence back. So, hello. I'll love to hear that. So, Really good interview there. Okay. Meanwhile, kind of transitioning into that joint practice, when we were live yesterday, the Ravens players were partaking in the Packers tradition of riding bikes from the field house to practice. And we were watching Brian Wacker, is that his name? I'm pretty sure, from Baltimore Sun. He had like this long 3-minute video that we were just kind of watching and reacting to live. We had never seen it before. And that's when we saw from the backside what you've all now seen, which is that near crash. We can laugh now because we know he's okay, but in the moment, I remember us being like, "What? Is he gonna biff it?" So he caught up with a Packers reporter. I want to make sure I get his name from WFRV Local 5, Timothy Littau, talking about that experience of a near crash.
How were the bike rides this morning?
It was dope. I almost fell off the bike, actually, trying to shake hands with the fans. Had a little technical difficulty, but it was all good.
Yeah, pretty cool tradition.
Definitely a cool tradition. I loved it. What's going on, buddy?
About the game this weekend?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the guys play. I won't be playing, but I'm excited to see the guys play. My first time in Green Bay. Dope experience.
Lamar's been kind of making fun of himself. So there he's like, yeah, I almost crashed. And then he's been on Twitter. And he's like, brah, my first bike ride in Green Bay was with all these, melting emojis and laughing emojis. And then on Instagram, he posted again and he said, send me back to be more, homie. They got bikes trying to send me up. So yeah, like, was this the plan, Green Bay? Try to take out our 2-time MVP? Obviously not, a joke. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that to joke, but you never know what people take things seriously these days. So he was kind of having fun with that and making fun of himself. Meanwhile, remember I said I needed a picture of Daniel Fa'alele on a bike? Okay. Well, unfortunately I didn't get that, but there were other offensive linemen who did get into the fun. Look at Roger Rosengarten on that teeny tiny bike. It looks like, it could almost be one of those unicycles in the circus that are super tiny. Like, look at him. Look at that thing. Just powering over it. Then look who else joining in the fun. Ronnie Stanley. Just a massive human being on this little kid's bike. Okay. King Henry. Look at that. This kid came. Well, he's got his Titans jersey. Can we update that? Can we update that, buddy? But he's got a Titans jersey on. Gives him a King Henry's Royal Ride. Derek looking like he's having fun there. And then I just had to throw in this picture because Marcus Williams looks like he's returning to his childhood. Look at that. Look at that face. Look at that goofy face. I like him. I like that Marcus Williams doesn't take himself too seriously sometimes. He just seems like a goofy, fun kind of guy. So I was happy that while I didn't get my Daniel Fa'alele bike moment, I did get some offensive linemen. And Marcus Williams delivered there. So that's where it gets into some practice notes. Okay. And there was, what do you say? Maybe a mild panic? More than mild? What do you guys think? Mild panic when some notes came out about the offensive line. And I told you guys yesterday, if you were part of the show, I was dying laughing when Coach Evans did a YouTube film breakdown, and he was not happy with Daniel Fa'alele's footwork on an outside zone run scheme. And he put the camera on himself and he looked into it with that. And I promised I would use this as a meme whenever bad, terrible play happens. Okay. Or in this case, we're getting reports. Now, I want to say something real quick about the joint practices. Or practice. I guess they have one more today, but it's a walkthrough, and I don't think there's any media availability. So first of all, this practice takes on about as much significance you can have in a practice. And the reason being that the Ravens aren't playing Lamar Jackson and the Stars in the preseason. And I support that decision. So this marks the only opportunity for Lamar, Roquan Smith, Zay Flowers, the list goes on, Derek Hamilton, the stars, to play somebody that is not their own team, which is helpful given that we are 2 weeks away from traveling to Kansas City and getting ready to take on the 2-time defending champs, who the Ravens lost to in that title game, as we know. And so while you don't want to read too much into a single practice, right? You never want to do that. At the same time, if there's a practice that carries more weight than all the others, it's this one. And so I listened to Isaiah Likely. I listened to a few people who talked about how they loved this practice because it was kind of their first test against other starters. Well, you should also know that because it was up in Green Bay, I think there were only about 3 Ravens reporters that went up there. There was Clifton Brown from the team. There was Brian from the Baltimore Sun, and then Gianna from the Baltimore Banner. So then on top of that, the Ravens have a policy that they cannot tweet during practice. So they have to give all their updates after practice. Well, clearly that's not the media policy up in Green Bay, because we were essentially getting play-by-plays from all the Green Bay Packers media. And so early in practice, Matt Schneid from The Athletic gave the following tweets, which just put Ravens Twitter in a tailspin. As soon as they go out for the team periods, the Ravens had 4 false starts in just the first 2 team periods. 4 false starts. Then he says the Packers defensive line has been getting steady pressure. Okay, he follows up a little bit later. He says Packers defensive line is feasting in the red zone period right now. Okay, and he follows up on that even more. He says Lamar is running for his life out here and not by design. So I had to bring in Coach Evans because this is not the news we want to hear. Like what? 2 weeks away? 2 weeks away? You got 4 false starts? Lamar's running for his life? No. That's not what we want to hear. So I will say this, though. This is what's somewhat hilarious about it. Matt, his name is longer than that. It's Matt Schneidman. Wanted to get that right. So he wrote this long story on The Athletic about, this is the headline, Packers defensive front shows Jeff Hafley's, who's their new defensive coordinator, impact in joint practices against the Ravens. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he goes on and on and on about how like everybody was like wondering what it was going to be like with this new defensive coordinator. He's got a reputation for being aggressive. How's that really going to look? And then one of his concluding paragraphs was, it wasn't a perfect performance during Thursday's joint practice against the Ravens, but the Packers front showed against a team known for being physical up front why there's plenty of reason for optimism this season. Who wants to tell Matt? Who wants to tell Matt, hey, maybe the Packers defensive line will go on to be fantastic? In fact, that would be great news for the Ravens that this defensive line is like the best in the NFL, and maybe that would explain why they were this bad. Oh, if only that became the case. If only this was the toughest defensive line they were going to see all year. But I doubt that. So who's going to tell them the Ravens offensive line with 3 new starters, 2 of them essentially being rookies, because Voorhees is coming off, it's basically his rookie year, coming off that injury. Roger Rosengardner, a rookie, and then Daniel Falele, by the way, is basically a rookie at right guard. He's been a tackle his whole life, and he's only been experimenting for a little over a month now with this. So I just wanted to say to Matt, I'm happy for you guys, but I would not take. Oh, and by the way, Linderbaum wasn't out there. Our 7th round rookie Samac was out there. So if the Packers are looking for some sort of optimism, that this absolutely means their defensive line is phenomenal. Like I said, they could be, but this is not the litmus test to let you know. And I know, as he said, the Ravens have been known for being physical up front, but probably should just warn him that this is not not the offensive line to make that judgment. So that wasn't looking good there. Meanwhile, there was some good news. Roger Rosengarten, there was a tweet from Andy Herman up from Green Bay. He said Roger Rosengarten with an impressive one-on-one versus Rashawn Gary, who's just this longtime veteran, I believe Pro Bowler. And he said that Roger absolutely, he said, stonewalled him. Don't see that from a rookie against Gary often. So, pretty good news. Now, I wanted to augment this from a Ravens reporter's point of view. Clifton Brown, a team reporter, he was the only one that went for the Ravens. So he called into the lounge with Ryan and Garrett to kind of give his firsthand look. So here was his take on the offensive line, because the sky certainly was falling on Ravens Twitter yesterday. So here's what Cliff had to say.
Plays where, Lamar Jackson, regular season, to me, definitely would have been sacked unless he did one of his.
I have to pause it. I'm so sorry. I do this from time to time. You guys know I listen to my podcasts on a faster speed. And when I grabbed this, I forgot to slow it down. So get your minds up to speed. This is a little bit fast, but you should be able to take it in. Here's Clifton Brown once again.
I saw some plays where, Lamar Jackson, regular season, to me, definitely would have been sacked unless he did one of his Houdini moves. I also saw some instances where the protection helped well. And I saw a lot of quick throws from Lamar, which were successful to Zay and to Rashad Bateman. Also saw a few plays where Lamar could have run and didn't, because, as John mentioned at the practice, they wanted him to stay in the pocket and see if some of their throws could be completed with him instead of him making something happen. And then I also saw when Lamar did decide to run, I mean, he was turning the corner. It was an old, what we're used to seeing from Lamar, where guys thought they had the angle on him, and then it turns out he just ran right by them. So there's been this, the talk about Lamar being lighter than he's been in a couple of years. I think it is translating into him being, as fast as he's been over the last couple of years, that when he decides to kick into another gear, you're seeing a little burst to me that maybe he didn't have, when he was up to 230 pounds. So it was a mixed bag. I don't think the offensive line got dominated today, but I also feel that they're still, to me, haven't completely settled on who it's going to be. And obviously, replacing 3 starters, that's why this line of conversation about the offensive line has not gone away.
All right. So a lot of good stuff there from Cliff. A lot of good stuff. So he describes it more as a mixed bag. Some of the impressions I got from Packers media was that they were dominated. Cliff said he didn't see it as dominated, more of a mixed bag. Now, you're getting 2 different perspectives, one a Packers reporter, one a team reporter from inside the building, so maybe he's not trying to be as hard on them. But he said there were times it held up, times he would have definitely been sacked unless he became Houdini again. So mixed bag, not dominated. But his last point, very important. He said, but here we are 2 weeks away. He said, to me, this offensive line isn't settled. I've noted earlier this week, Jeff Zrebeck on Twitter has said the Ravens are out there looking. They're monitoring. It would not surprise me that they pick up somebody after roster cuts. But is there going to be a savior out there? That might take more of a trade. That might take some assets. I don't know. And where exactly are they going to do that? Are they going to do it for the left guard, the right guard? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But it is a little bit unsettling that we're 2 weeks away and they're not, it doesn't sound like they're feeling uber confident about this offensive line. That was the offensive line part. Then he took a note, as I mentioned earlier, with Lamar talking about his weight loss and how he feels like he's pretty fast again. Cliff took note of that. And he said that, he's turning the corner. So when you're trying to get out to the edge, can you turn that corner before somebody catches you with a little dive and maybe a shoelace or shoestring tackle? Nah, he's turning the corner. Talking about how fast he was, that he maybe is able to maybe find another gear that he couldn't find when he had 25 more pounds, something like that. So Lamar might need that speed if they're going to be leaky. This is going to be a mixed bag. Now, just like we saw from the Packers reported that Roger Rosengarten stonewalled his guy, Gary, Cliff saw lots of good things from Roger also.
Garden, I thought, had a pretty good practice. Especially in a tough environment for a rookie, I think, going against, Rosengarten is fully aware of the spotlight that's on him. He wants to be the starter. He knows that every rep he takes, every practice is being scrutinized. I think he's holding up pretty well here the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I think he's come on, as camp has progressed. So, yeah, I think a day like this is going to help him. He's a young player, a rookie, who has a chance to start. It's not easy. He knows, but I think he's growing. And I think, today is a day moving forward that's going to help.
All right, so great news about Roger. I mean, Roger is the young rookie coming in. He's, fresh off combine, fresh off his season, fresh all that kind of stuff. And he's trending totally in the right direction. He's got to get stronger in run blocking, obviously. But I'll talk about the run game here in just a second, another observation from the lounge. But I love to hear, remember when he was in college, he was a left tackle. But because he was protecting a left-handed cornerback, they moved him over to right tackle. I like what I'm hearing in terms of when Lamar drops back to pass. I'm feeling like Roger's got his back. Roger's going to keep him safe. But like I said, he's got to keep getting better. He's got to get stronger in the run game. But if there's only so much you can ask from a rookie day one. And I feel like he's trending in the right direction. Where did I see this comment? I wanted to pull this up. Here we go. Brian Spar said, Sarah's friend Ken McCusick says Cleveland is the Ravens' best guard based on first 2 games. And then Brian says, I agree. Brian, I agree. I'm still scratching my head as to why it doesn't even seem like he's gotten a chance here. Whenever he's filled in the past, he's been solid. Not great, not Pro Bowler, but not where you're like biting your fingernails, which is kind of what I'm doing with Fa'alele right now. And again, maybe there's some amazing upside to Daniel. But I just don't need this experiment hurting anybody right now. So I don't know why he hasn't gotten that chance. And maybe once the practices are closed, the Ravens will make that switch. Maybe they will. I don't know. But up till now, it's been Fa'alele basically getting all those starter reps. So I also want to say this. Did I grab this? Here, let me see if I can pull this in. I didn't grab it on time. I forgot to tell you, Lamar was also asked about his offensive line when he was on Adam Shine's show. Here we go. You tell me. He asked Lamar about this offense. Adam was trying to be like, hey, everybody's talking about if there's a weakness of this Ravens, it's the offensive line. And Adam's like, but that's probably overblown, right? Here's Lamar on his offensive line.
In terms of the chemistry and the makeup of the offensive line.
Man, we're still building right now. I can't call it. We haven't played our first game yet. I really never know until the first game, because practices, guys can look good. We can all look good in practice and then in games and be like, what happened? So from right now, our guys look wonderful. Young offensive line right now, we probably have, I think Ronnie is the oldest lineman on the team right now. And that's crazy because usually we're pretty solid there. But I believe Ronnie's the vet now, 9th year in, and guys looking up to him and Tyler as well, all pro center. So we're just gonna go with those guys and just hope guys just fall in line with those guys, man, Ronnie and Tyler.
All right. So did you catch that in the beginning? What he said wasn't the biggest ringing endorsement. Let me just play the beginning again.
You've seen in terms of the chemistry and the makeup of the offensive line.
Man, we're still building right now.
We're still building.
I can't call it. We haven't played our first game yet.
I can't call it. We haven't played our first game yet. Oh, he talked about his weapons. He's like, I feel like we're going to be pick your poison. He's like, we're going to eat. I'm going to let them eat. But he's asked about his offensive line. He's like, I can't say really yet. Oh, crap. Listen, he didn't talk bad about him, but that wasn't the biggest ringing endorsement. Couple comments here, questions that I want to get to here. Jahai Scott says, Sarah, do you think they are trying to hide Cleveland by not putting much film out and playing him with the second string? You're not really hiding him because he's played. Like, Zeitler was injured last year. He missed, a chunk of games. So it's not, I don't know if you were like hiding new like plays that Monken has come up with. You're hiding, what you're gonna do with Zay, or what you're gonna do in 12 personnel, or what you're gonna do with King Henry because he's new. But what are you hiding with Cleveland? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, what is it do you think that they're trying to hide, and what advantage that would be? Sebastian says Daniel just needs more of a killer instinct, and maybe that is it, because that is what's definitely lacking for me. Like, you could live with maybe him not being as quick and fast because he's so large, but then you're like, hey, you live and die by him being so large, and you live when he's like mauling people. We're not seeing that. John Harbaugh said that, again, it's a new position, so maybe if they're trying to give him all these reps to see if he becomes confident enough to become that mauler, to have that killer instinct. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Now, so there is Cleveland there. And by the way, if they do feel comfortable with Roger Rosengarten, by the way, in that joint practice yesterday, they still had Roger and McCary rotating, and I believe McCary got the first team reps, if I heard things right. So I don't know. There's other options for sure. And I'm sure they can, like I've said before, they definitely know what they have in McCary. They definitely know what they have in Cleveland. So maybe they're just trying to give Fa'alele all the reps possible to see if that experience will help things, click more, since it's a brand new position. So, so there is that. Now, I talked about a little bit about it's ironic that all these guys have actually been better in pass blocking than run blocking, and we kind of anticipated the opposite. And so many people have wondered, well, what's this going to do? We're happy that the Ravens took a step forward in the passing game with Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson last year, but let's not forget, like, the Ravens are still a running offense. Like, they live to inflict pain by running people over, and that is why they brought in Derrick Henry. And so the question is, if these guys are struggling in run blocking, what's going to happen? This is one person's opinion, but Garrett Downing, based off of what he's been watching, I'm not there, so we got to take the reporter's words for who are there and watching them every day. Here's what he said.
And so I think that, like, that ground game, and I think that from what I have seen from the offensive line standpoint and from Derrick Henry, I think that the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball pretty effectively. I think that, like, I have liked what I've seen in practice. I think they've kept it really vanilla in the preseason games, of course. I know that some people have been kind of concerned they're not getting great push in these preseason games. I think it's been really vanilla, and I think that the Ravens are going to be able to have success on the ground with Henry once we get to these regular season games.
Okay. So he's saying, okay, I can't reveal everything because I get to see the plays that you guys don't get to see, that we're not seeing in the preseason. But he's like, yeah, we're going to be able to move the ball. All right. Well, I hope Garrett's right. Meanwhile, so while Garrett saw that, and I forgot to mention this one last thing before I get to this opinion from Childs Walker at the Baltimore Sun. Let me blow this up a little bit longer. John Harbaugh was asked about the offensive line, and he said he was talking about how much the Packers were bringing stunts and blitzes and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I was happy with how firm the pocket was 90% of the time. He added that Lamar was not looking to run. I mean, he's not under any danger because it's against the rules to hit a quarterback. And so he said, he held the ball longer than normal. So here's my question. And this is the thing about offensive lines. It's always like, if you don't hear anybody talking about them, it means they're doing a good job. And it could be one or two plays that just, like, they could have 50 great offensive snaps and 2 bad, and they had a bad day. Is 90%, is that going to be enough? Like, are we going to be okay with that? I don't know. I feel like it needs to be 98%. 90% is what he says. So probably not a coincidence. While you got the Packers up there celebrating their defensive line, right? And the Athletics saying, hey, this was a good, this brings a lot of optimism. This morning, Childs Walker of the Baltimore Sun has this headline. Ravens offensive line could be the gamble that undermines a Super Bowl roster. The same questions from the offseason about a key unit persist, he says. So I want to read this. I didn't bring it all in, but I brought in some chunks that I wanted to read. And he's getting into the gamble that Eric DeCosta and the Ravens are taking. Because again, remember, as soon as the season ended last year, we have the season in review, and John Harbaugh is like, yeah, we're going to have a huge makeover along the offensive line. And technically that's true because we have 3 new starters, but they only really brought in Roger. And then they signed Johnson as the free agent. But all the rest is more like we're moving up the guys that has already been in the pipeline. So Childs says every spring, as they prepare for a new wave of free agency and another draft, Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh trumpet the same philosophy. A great offense is built on the bedrock of a great offensive line. So it was surprising when the Ravens, coming off a dominant 2023 season and pegged a Super Bowl contender again for 2024, embraced significant risk with the unit that protects franchise quarterback Lamar Jackson and paves trails for one of the sport's most efficient ground attacks. They had right tackle Morgan Moses under contract for another year and likely could have re-signed right guard Kevin Zeitler for a modest price. Both veterans played well in 2023 until injuries caught up with them late. The Ravens kept neither, calculating that Moses and Zeitler's health risks would persist as they play into their mid-30s. Which, it's probably fair. DeCosta also did not sign an experienced starter in free agency. He chose youth, drafting tackle Roger Rosengarten in the second round and putting Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Faalele, who've started one NFL game between them, in position to win the left and right guard jobs, respectively. Only left tackle Ronnie Stanley and center Tyler Linderbaum were guaranteed starting spots when the Ravens opened camp in late July. And since then, Tyler really hasn't been practicing much with that neck injury. And Ronnie's been steady. Give him that. Anyway, Charles goes on. As such, analysts routinely pointed to the offensive line when questioning the team's Super Bowl qualifications. Pro Football Focus placed the group 25th in its preseason unit rankings. The Detroit Lions with Zeitler at guard, by the way, they topped the list. A month later, Child says, with the Ravens about to play their final preseason game and the season opener with Kansas City Chiefs less than 2 weeks away, the same questions persist. We have a clear idea of who's going to start. Faalele and Voorhees at guard, with Roger Rosengarten and Patrick McCary still battling at right tackle against the 2-time Super Bowl champs on September 5th. How effective they'll be is far less certain based on what we've seen this summer. Then he says, this could be the gamble that undermines a roster designed to take the Ravens all the way to February. John says, I understand why there's concern. I get the questions, and we're all going to find out real soon, and it will be an ongoing process. Child says, well, Harbaugh's in the bunker now, working with the tools he has, so he has little choice but to push forward optimistically. The Ravens have their eye on the outside market, and it would be no surprise if they add a veteran lineman or two once teams cut their rosters next week. But everyone is looking for quality blockers, so the chances of finding a starting candidate are slim. Perhaps we'll look back in January and say all this fretting was misplaced. Perhaps we'll say DeCosta was astute in overwhelming a creaky 2023 unit and managing a salary cap in the same fell swoop. The Ravens won big with young, lightly tested lines in Harbaugh's early years. Maybe they will again. Maybe. So that's Childs Walker. We're going to find out. It's definitely a gamble. Here's the thing is if you took, it was a gamble because they went with youth and inexperience at 3 spots. 3. What if you kept just Zeitler? You know? What if you had just kept him? Then we'd be feeling a lot better. Then it would be like all these guys are fighting at left guard. And then you're already feeling good about Roger Rosengarten. I don't know. So we will see. Okay. Let's see. Should I check in on some comments here before I move on? People upset with EDC. Troy Gale says, whole Ravens fan base and organization trusting in EDC right now. He will save or cave us. I'm with him. I'm going to trust. All right, Troy. I mean, they did, like I said in the past, I think the Ravens along the offensive line deserve the benefit of the doubt. It's just that it's 3 positions. So let's see here. Good point by Not a Fan. He says RD line was ranked 22nd preseason last year. See how that works when uncertainty is involved. So, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Three different positions here. By the way, other notes from practice yesterday. Lamar Jackson connected for a touchdown. This is from Clifton. Connect for a touchdown passes to Rashad Bateman and Charlie Kolar during the Ravens red zone drill. By the way, listening to Cliff, he was very complimentary of Bateman. Feels like he said because Bateman's been dealing with that rib injury, he goes, I don't know if he's 100%, but he looks 100%. Like he felt like he was kind of all over the field, had a lot of catches. He almost had another that was knocked down by their Pro Bowl cornerback. He said Jackson looked sharp throwing the football throughout practice and made several Lamar-like moves when he chose to scramble. Went on to say again, Bateman had a strong practice, making decisive cuts on his routes to get open for several catches. He also said Lamar also found Zay Flowers for a completion of around 25 yards to keep a drive moving. Flowers was animated throughout practice, encouraging other receivers and clearly enjoying competing against other teams. By the way, Clef talked about how like chirpy Zay Flowers was, but in a good way. Like just constantly being encouraging and constantly talking, not necessarily trash talking. He said Lamar was very vocal also yesterday. So obviously we're seeing those 2 leaders emerge. On the defensive side, Gianna Hahn from Baltimore Banner, we all saw this, that in 11-11, the Ravens defense had a bunch of takeaways and big plays. Roquan Smith got it started. I think it was like the first team period that Roquan got an interception. Justin Madubuike and Odafe Owe were pressuring the quarterback. Michael Pierce got a hand on a pass. Then they moved to red zone drills. That's when Brennan Stevens, while he stayed with his guys, they still made catches out of his reach for touchdowns. Kyle Hamilton went up for a jump ball, but the wide receiver won that. Many Green Bay TDs were scored. So Cliff, again, you should go listen to his stuff on the lounge. He was very detailed. He said all the scores, there was like, I think 4 touchdowns in a row. He's like, the Packers are not moving the ball up and down on the defense. He said it was a red zone drill. So you're already up right next to it. So obviously they want to do better in the red zone, but that's where their touchdowns came from. They weren't moving the ball up and down on the Ravens. Gianna went on and said, when Green Bay starters went against Raven starters, Jordan Love marched. I just said that in here. Gianna saying, here's one where they marched down the field, completing a 30-something yard pass with Stevens in coverage, again on the guy all the way. And they looked like they were about to score a touchdown, but then one Ardarius Washington. Good job, Ardarius. He came up with a big pass breakup at the goal line, and that forced them to go for a field goal. Trenton Simpson, meanwhile, he didn't get an interception, but almost did. Big pass breakup. So he and Roquan were certainly standing out. The people who weren't practicing, Arthur Millette, as we know. Nelson Aguilar was a new absence. So we'll find out if that is extended or not. We already knew Adisa Isaac and Tyler Linderbaum. And then Mark Andrews still has not practiced since that car accident. So I'm not sure if they're playing it safe. They said there's nothing serious. Maybe they're playing it safe coming off of that. Now, there was that moment. We kind of got a little bit of a scare. Kyle Hamilton seemed to be injured, kind of shaken up a little bit. He was surrounded by trainers, according to Gianna, was holding his left hip, she said. Then he went down to his hands and knees, eventually got up and walked off. It was after a one-on-one with Christian Watson So Cliff on the lounge was asked about more details to that, and here's what he saw.
I honestly did not see the play that it happened on, but he was not gone for a long period of time. He went in, and you're thinking he's not going to come back out. He did. He watched the rest of practice, like you said. He did not look like he was laboring, moving around. He was supposed to talk on podium, and to be honest with you, I thought that he even still might, because again, he returned and didn't look like he was feeling serious or really any discomfort, to be honest. So, I'm not going to speculate on what it is and how long he might be out. But yes, I think it's way more encouraging to see him come back, watch the end of practice, leave like with the rest of the players, not, looking like he was in any physical difficulty. So
I just noticed that Bobby's in the comments. Bobby, you shouldn't be on the golf course, bud. You should be on the golf course. He says he's here. He's in between shots. Is he pulling a Wink Martindale? Remember the interview we had with Wink? So glad to see Bobby. I hope you're having a blast out there. Getting a lot of people saying enjoy it. Ooh. I'm trying to see if he's commented since then. Nah, he's probably, hitting a hole in one right now. Bobby should stream from the course. Absolutely. Got to get that going. But to revisit what Cliff said, it really does seem like not super serious. He said that when Kyle left, it was kind of like, oh, is he going to be gone for a while? And he almost immediately came back. And to Cliff's eye, he thought he might go back into practice, but, ended up staying on the sideline. So hopefully he'll be just fine, but it seems like he will be. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, some quick hits. Transition to some quick hits. We got just a couple minutes left. There are 2,000 of you joining between Twitter, my Twitter account, and YouTube. Thank you, everybody. And while you're here, if you're in YouTube, please hit the like button so it keeps getting pushed out in that algorithm. We would appreciate that. And hit subscribe, and also hit the notification bell so that you guys know when we're going live each day at noon, to kind of be reminded as you go on your lunch break. Over on Get Up, they asked a question: more or less, Lamar Jackson will put up 4,026 yards from scrimmage. I got to tell you, like, I say more, and I'm not even like, like, I think he's going to hit more, right? Because if he's, the only way he won't is if he were to get injured. I hate always putting that out in the universe. Or if he's playing so well, he doesn't play like week 17, then that might kill it. But I actually feel kind of confident 4,000 total yards from scrimmage between rushing. Listen, with how fast he's sounding, and you got King Henry there, and if Garrett's correct, even if like the offensive line isn't giving us the most confidence, Garrett's like, no, I'm telling you, you're going to move the ball. Hope Garrett's right. But yeah, total yards from scrimmage, 4,026. Is there anybody that thinks it would be less? Brandon DeBand saying he thinks it'll be 5,000. Oh, that's getting up there, Brandon. I don't know that one. I don't know about that one, but I like where your head's at. Mel Trap, he's like, yeah, total yards, yes. Passing alone, no. I agree. I wouldn't say he's going to hit 4,000 passing. What do we got here? 5,000 yards, 400 rushing. Ooh, people are getting crazy out here. 5,400 total, Tank? I don't know. Now we're getting crazy. Yes, I do agree. Jeremiah Lamar's going to go off. Okay, is there anybody that says less? More. Cameron Walker, more. Last season was Lamar's best. Has a lot more he can leave on the field. Henry 2K from Dr. Ilwan. Janae saying 4,100 passing and 787 rushing. My goodness, the optimism around here is through the roof. Got rid of a queen, brought in a king. All right, so Troy saying 4,800 passing, 600 rushing. My goodness. Less than 4,500 total, but you think it'll be less than 4,000 is my question. All right. Well, move on to the next quick hit here. So Lamar got to meet up with his former college teammate Jair Alexander. Alexander, I believe they were both drafted in 2008, both in the first round. Alexander, I feel like he was drafted in the teens, somewhere in there. Anyway, he spoke to Packers reporters and said that, you know, he always jokes with Lamar that they haven't yet met in the Super Bowl. And then he said, quote, "I think the time is coming soon." I think we could both get on board with that. Let's meet in the Super Bowl, Packers. I would love that. I got no problem with that. Let's do that. And then hopefully by then our offensive line will have figured itself out. Somebody said to Lamar, "We need more Lamar and Jair together for us Louisville fans." And Lamar said, "Well, tell him to slide to the Ravens because, you know, Lamar is not leaving Baltimore. Let's get that straight right now. Right now." But yeah, come on over. NFL.com did predictions of who they think will be first-time Pro Bowlers. Look who else got love again. First, Cam Jordan said Odafe Owe was a top 5 pass rusher in the league. And now NFL.com is predicting that he will become a Pro Bowler. My goodness, people. Oh, that would be awesome. We've been talking about losing Clowney. Just like the Ravens are having a gamble with their youth on the offensive line. Ravens said, we're not going to bring back Clowney. We're going to put our eggs in the Odafe Owe basket along with some of our other young guys. If he becomes a Pro Bowler, that means he's finishing. That means he's not almost getting the sack. That doesn't mean he's getting a quarterback hit. That doesn't mean he's getting a quarterback pressure. It means he's getting sacks. Pro Bowl pass rushers are finishing the job and getting sacks. That would be a massive development for the Ravens if Odafe Owe has a Pro Bowl year. On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you guys that Odafe Owe will put up a Pro Bowl year? Put that in the comments. I'm going to start reading what NFL.com had to say about him. Frankly, I didn't even look at what options might be on the table here. 2024 should be Bijan show in Atlanta. After all, the talk about the Falcons quarterbacks this offseason, it's the running back who should unlock the offense. What's this got to do with Odafe? Move down. Oh, you know what? I accidentally pulled in the wrong commentary with it. So I don't know what he said about Odafe, but he thinks he's going to be a Pro Bowl. Okay, I got a 7 and a 7 from Troy and Cameron. A 0 from Static. Janae Anderson says 6.93. Big Cuz says 8. Kevin's at a 9.5. He's feeling it. All right. Well, honestly, it'd be a huge development if he could do that. Some news Adam Schefter broke last night. Chiefs Pro Bowl center Creed Humphrey reached a new deal. It was 4 years, $72 million extension, including $50 million guaranteed. Could you guys imagine having guaranteed $50 million? Like, we're so used to saying these numbers that sometimes I lose sight at like how much money that is. You are guaranteed today $50 million. Jeez. Humphrey now becomes the highest paid center in NFL history. So I bring this up because, you know, one Tyler Linderbaum licking his chops. Because Tyler Linderbaum is on a trajectory when it's time to become the highest paid center. What's Linderbaum? Is this his third year? Are we going to his third year? Oh, it goes too fast. When guys are really good on their rookie contract, you just love those savings. You want everybody to get paid. At the same time, when you think about a roster construction, you're like, wait, that time flew by. Like, what the heck? That was good savings. So yeah, so that is definitely news for Tyler Linderbaum and the Ravens to look at because they are not far behind. Blitz Packer talking about getting the 5th year option. Blitzbacker saying Tyler getting that 5th year option next year. 100%. 100. And then Kyle. Yes, Kyle's going to need to get paid too. They're the same year. Oh, woof. It's going to get expensive around here. Better start figuring it out now. PFF, want to give a little love to Dayton Wade. PFF said that, so Dayton Wade's preseason, 6 receptions, 94 yards, 53 yak yards, 1 touchdown, 3.03 yards per route run. He certainly has had a good preseason. I don't think he's going to make the 53. I think they're going to try to get him on the practice squad, but he's done everything he can do. Meanwhile, the Steelers released former Ravens cornerback Anthony Averett. I believe he was a former 4th rounder, right? He was 4th round. Ravens drafted him out of Alabama. Never quite panned out here. Gave it a run with the Steelers, but now he is a free agent looking for work, so we wish him the best there. Do I have anything else? I think that's everything, folks. We are 7 minutes past 1 o'clock, so that should about do it. Glad Bobby was able to jump in for a minute, say hello. Glad that he's, of course, wedding weekend, you're going to go play golf. Of course he finds a way to go get that done. I'm sure he's with his brothers and his dad out there, maybe some cousins and an uncle, all that kind of stuff. So wish him the best weekend ever. I need to do Bobby's role and thank, look at me, our patrons. Thank you, Stephen Dentz and Jason Zarotniak, for supporting us and believing in what we're building and growing here at the Vault. If you all want to also support us, obviously not required, but you can go over to Patreon. I think it's /the Vault. You can join there. So thank you to you two guys. What's on the docket? So tomorrow, Saturday, the Ravens and the Packers will have their preseason game. Bobby will still be out with his family wedding, but Jason from Huddle Up Films will join me post-game, and we'll do some post-game analysis, but it won't be huge. I mean, it's going to be mostly the guys that aren't making the team are going to be playing, into that second half. Maybe we'll see, some guys in that first quarter, but so we'll do some game analysis, but more than anything, we're going to like tie it into our 53-man cut down roster predictions. So let me tell you what I'm going to be doing tonight. Okay. I'm getting out my spreadsheet and I'm going to start making some moves. So I do not know at this present time who is fully making my 53, but I can promise you by tomorrow at the end of that game, I will have predictions for you. So will Jason. I'm also, by the way, excited to talk to Jason about the offensive line because I know he's been studying that. And he put out some tweets yesterday that made me think that he's not feeling too great either. So we'll talk to him about that. So please join me and Jason after the game tomorrow. And guys, we're getting close. We're getting close for football coming back. Last preseason game. Going to be crossed off the list. And then it's all eyes on Kansas City. All eyes on Kansas City. So I hope to see you here tomorrow with me and Jason. And until then, thank you for all that you guys do and for joining us here inside the Vault. I will see you tomorrow.